This is the KB48 motorbike. It has a 2-stroke engine, which is between 90 cc's and 120. Not certain on that. It's a Jacobsen engine from a snowblower, Homelight Jacobsen. It uses a belt clutch with a Kevlar wrapped belt, double rim, second rim acting as a pulley. They're riveted together. It has a foot clutch because a hand clutch was way too heavy. That's how it works. The bike does have an electrical system, which is fed off of this pulley, which is also the same one that drives the actual drivetrain, the wheel. It has this thin little belt, which I think came from a VCR or something, and it drives this dynamo made from a printer motor. There was a pulley in front of this, but it broke, and I'm currently fixing that. It was a two-part pulley, and the two pieces separated. So I'm currently fixing that. From the dynamo, the wires run up the handlebars to a voltage regulator that's zip tied on with a little capacitor. It's a 5-volt voltage regulator, and it runs over to the headlight. Well, first to this little switch here, and then to the headlight. Currently not connected, but I just have to solder this back on to the headlight wires. It was disconnected because one of the LEDs burnt out. I had the wrong value resistor connected, but it's all good now. The muffler is a painted hollow aluminum baseball bat with a vacuum pipe that runs all along from here to about there, and it has many holes drilled in it to attempt to silence the exhaust. Although it's still not very quiet, so I call this the loudencer. The front fork has been upgraded to one with shocks, although they don't help at all. The fuel tank is mounted with 2 coat rack hooks that have been bent and shaped so that they fit around the gas tank and bolt to the side of the frame like so. The gas tank itself is from a Tecumsehs snowblower engine. Got this stupid pointless bell, which you can't hear over the roar of the engine anyways. The engine itself is pretty powerful for its size. It's got a Walbro pump carburetor similar to what they use on chainsaws. This is excellent. It's never given me any problems since I installed a fuel filter. Which, by the way, fuel filters, very important. Doesn't matter how clean your tank is, put one on anyways, because look at all the crud that this caught in my so-called clean fuel tank. The air cleaner is homemade using an ABS fitting, a PVC pipe, and a PVC end cap, I think, with a test cap over it with holes drilled in it. And inside of this is a Tecumseh 4 to 8 horsepower cone filter. A snowblower engine not designed for the low RPM sometimes necessary in a motorbike application. The intense vibrations from the low RPM running cracked the housing a couple times, and it had to be repaired and patched with new sheet metal, and it's already starting to crack again, so I'm going to look for a permanent solution to this. The engine's had quite a bit of work done to it. It's pretty poorly designed, as you can tell already from the cracks I mentioned earlier. Not to mention the carburetor was held in by 2 bolts, 2 very thin bolts mind you, which eventually broke. And I had to drill them out, and I JB welded in studs, which now holds this on much stronger. Screws holding on the reed valve inside also broke, and they had to be JB welded in as well. The throttle linkage is made from a coat hanger. A coat hanger and a spring. Despite the engine's poor design and all the modifications I had to make it work, it's still very powerful and pulls harder than the Tecumseh 2-stroke equivalents. The engine wasn't at full operating temperature at the time, which is why it didn't rev as high as it usually does. Usually it responds much quicker and revs much higher. But I'm trying to make this quick because the neighbor's a dickhead. I've been using this thing for approximately 3.5 years, and it only gives me major problems every now and then. But I've straightened most of that out. I've replaced the engine mounts, I've fixed the engine's carburetor mounting bolts, which snapped off. I've fixed the pull starter housing, I've replaced this thing. And as always, the bike cost me next to nothing to make, being made entirely out of scrap parts, excluding the V-belt, which I had to special order online, which cost me like 40 bucks for a fucking V-belt. But that's how it is in Canada. We don't really have V-belt suppliers around here, at least not near me. Anyways, best cheap bike under the sun. Anyways, tune in next time when I put a Honda XR80 carburetor on this thing to finally rid it of all the Tecumseh problems, the Tecumseh curse.